Habari za asubuhi. It's an enormous privilege to be here at the U.S.-Kenya Creative Economy Forum. I'm grateful to the American Chamber of Commerce, to my friends at the U.S. Embassy, and to everyone who put together this important event at such a pivotal moment in time. So by way of introduction, I should probably admit right up front that I'm a bit of a double agent. And I realize by saying that I might be alarming anyone here from the State Department, but I'm afraid it's true. It would appear, based on the past 20 or so years of my life and career, that I am a fancy Hollywood producer. And I suppose in a lot of ways I am. I live in Los Angeles. I work with famous Hollywood actors and talent. And as you heard in that generous introduction from June, I have been fortunate to produce movies that have together made more than $500 million at the box office and television series that have been nominated for 26 Emmy Awards. I've developed comedies like Get 'Em to the Greek, Pineapple Express, Step Brothers, Bridesmaids, hit shows, as you heard, like In the Dark and Severance. And with Severance becoming the most popular series on Apple television, the successes seem to be continuing. And all these have certainly been lucky and prideful accomplishments for me as a producer. But the real reason I'm here with you in Nairobi today is an aspect of my life that always comes as a shock to my Hollywood colleagues. 35 years ago, I left my time as an undergraduate at Harvard University to come to the University of Nairobi for what was supposed to be a tidy 3-month semester, but eventually stretched to 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, several years of return visits, and eventually to my whole life. I learned Kiswahili. I lived in Nairobi and in a tiny farming village outside Kapsabet in the west of the country. I traveled to interview elders of the Nandi and other tribes about their changing cultures, and I made Kenyan friends and allegiances that I'm proud to have kept ever since. In fact, my love of Kenya soon expanded to years spent living in other countries across the continent. I did volunteer work in rural Ghana. I went to the University of Botswana for graduate school. I moved to South Africa when Nelson Mandela was released from prison, and lived in Cape Town during that country's first democratic elections. So if anyone is wondering why the Hollywood guy who developed Bridesmaids and Severance is also producing a dozen movies and television series with local creators right here in Kenya, as well as developing upward of 50 projects and multiple creative initiatives across Africa, that's why. And let me be very clear here on this podium at this event. This is not charity or an interest in diversity. It's not nostalgia or affection, and it's not a noble desire to, quote, give back. This is the seizing of a massive economic opportunity, both for me as the owner of a profit-driven American company and for the ambitious creatives from Kenya who are our partners. And that, I believe, is the spirit in which we come together today. Never have creative industries, including the film and television, sports, and music industries, been more important, more international, or more rapidly evolving. And all of those conditions endow US-Kenya partnerships with more power and more potential than ever. As everyone here knows, and as this economic forum is proof, creative industries are vitally important for many reasons. For one thing, they are the business that connect most powerfully with the next generation, the youth of our nations. And that means, simply put, they are the future. For another, in our age of digital technology and the ubiquitous use of internet and phones, creative industries generate the products that are most watched, most downloaded, most streamed, and most treasured in the hearts and minds of human beings across the planet. These are also not standalone industries. They are what I would call radiant industries, as they create jobs, opportunities, capacity building, and income elevation in adjacent industries as well. When you bring a sport to Kenya, the way the NBA is working so skillfully to do, you energize more than the sport itself. You grow the food and beverage industries, the construction industry, the insurance industry, urban infrastructure, television, radio, legal, textiles, and other businesses that supply, are fed by, and cross-pollinate with sports. When you shoot a movie in Kenya, you generate jobs, economic growth in carpentry, craft, fashion, transportation, food and lodging, accounting, tourism, and a spectrum of other sectors that together fuel the health of every country involved. Our creative industries are also more international than ever. One only has to look at the global spread of Afrobeats music, which went from 2 billion streams on Spotify in 2017 to nearly 15 billion streams just a few years later in 2022. Or the fact that more than 3.3 billion worldwide consumers over the age of 16 now profess an active interest in basketball. And below the age of 29, it's a full 3 out of 4 people on the planet. In my industry, the entertainment business, the spreading internationalism, phenomenal economic growth opportunities as well. In 2019, a Korean movie called Parasite, shot entirely in the Korean language for a budget of $15 million, struck a chord with audiences around the world and became the first Korean film to win top honors at the Cannes Film Festival, the first non-English film of any kind to win an Academy Award, and went on to gross more than $230 million from that initial $15 million budget. In 2021, a French language show called Lupin, starring my friend, the French-Senegalese actor Omar Sy, was aired by Netflix and was watched by almost 80 million households across the world during its first month alone. Just to give you some perspective, the first season of Friends, the most globally popular series of its era, attracted around 20 million viewers, 1/4 as much as an all-French show starring a comedian from Senegal. Even more recently, Netflix aired a particularly unexpected show out of Korea that the creators had spent 10 years trying to produce and failing. But when Squid Game was finally released in 2021, it was an unprecedented phenomenon, becoming the most watched show on television in 94 countries around the world and amassing a viewership of more than 140 million households. And the trend has only increased from there. RRR, a movie by Indian creators, shot in the local language in India for $18 million, went on to earn nearly $170 million across the world. Just a few months ago, an animated movie made in China, entirely in the Mandarin language, broke all entertainment records ever by earning a mind-bending $2.2 billion in movie theaters across the globe. There is nothing to say that the next Parasite, the next RRR, or the next Squid Game can't come from right here in Kenya. And if and when it does, the entire Kenyan economy and the entire world's view of Kenya will instantly and permanently change. For too long, Kenya has been viewed as the home of zebra cantering across a photographable savanna and nothing more. Like many African countries, this one has suffered from generations of international prejudice, from the harmful cliches that equate Africa with poverty, with war and disease and civil unrest, and at best, natural beauty, with little regard for the storytelling beauty, the cultural sophistication, the powerful narratives, and blockbuster creative potential of Kenya, as well as the phenomenal profits and wealth generation that those powers can produce. I, for one, am investing in that economic revolution. A year and a half ago, His Excellency President Ruto and I launched a historic initiative together in which my company, Invention Studios, became the first Hollywood company to set up a long-term creative partnership with Kenya. We are developing movies and shows by Kenyan creators, empowered by Hollywood support and resources, and are putting them on a track for distribution across Africa and around the world. And in return, the Kenyan government is helping to facilitate those projects, providing help with visas and permits, arranging low-cost housing to shoot our movies and shows, and withholding many of the taxes and hindrances that could stand in the way of a fast path to profitability for the Kenyan filmmakers and my American investors alike. As for the projects, here's how it works. A year ago, we put out a call for the best of the best proposals from the best of the best movie and television creators across Kenya. I expected, optimistically, maybe 20 or 30 submissions. How many best of the best film and television creators are there in Kenya? In the end, we got more than 400. After plowing our way through that mountain of reading, we chose 5. 3 movies and 2 proposed television series, and have been developing them hand in hand with the writers, and are now finishing several of the scripts and getting them ready for casting and financing and launch. And in the meantime, we have been working with Kenyan creators beyond that program as well. All told, we have a dozen or so projects now that were born in Kenya and are headed for the world. This is the approach that I think marks a new era of creative partnership, creative achievement, and creative industry profitability, both within Kenya and around the globe. In a time of unprecedented global attention and global revenues for international creative products, let us not miss the chance to provide those extraordinary products and reap extraordinary profits as a result. Let us not allow Nigeria, whose movies contribute some $6.4 billion to its GDP, to be the only beneficiary of creative industry growth on the continent. Let us not allow countries like Korea, Mexico, and New Zealand to be the only nations who learned that by investing in their creators and producers, they can transform their economies and radically elevate their stature in the world. And let us not succumb to any current forces of separation or national insularity that would keep us from such powerful teamwork. It is in all our interests to join forces, as we are here today, to tell the stories, play the sports, sing the songs, and generate the global creativity that can inspire and enrich ourselves, our economies, and the world. Thank you very much.